Welcome to Legacy Rips, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about why I started on eBay first. And if you're just getting into cards, into sports cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, all those Pokemon, everybody's going to tell you at one point in time, go live, start a break, join what's not. Which I'm not saying it's a bad plan. It just got to learn to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk before you can run. And I didn't do that. I started branching out, doing a lot of craziness, and then eventually I got burnt out really quick. So in this video, I want to walk you through my experiences and eventually why I picked eBay and started focusing on eBay. And my first point comes into this. The advice everyone gives you isn't always the best advice for where you're at in your process. So be where you're at, be where your feet are at. Listen to the advice because some of there's little golden nuggets in there, but if it doesn't apply with you, it will eventually, and just keep note of that. But doesn't mean that it's in bad intentions. Just you're not at that point where that piece of advice is valuable. And it is why I say stick to what you know. And remember, right now you're starting out, you're just one person. When you spread yourself across multiple platforms, you're doing all the work, not just on one, but on several. And that can be time consuming and that can be exhausting, especially if you have another job. If you don't get to do this as a primary thing, your time is valuable, and you still want to make sure you spend time with the family, especially if you have kids. But at the same time, cross-listing and having multiple platforms does eventually eat at you and wear you down. And that's why I chose one platform to start off, and that was eBay. And the reason why I chose eBay is because it's just not one thing. It is several things. It's an amazing site, and you're going to have a lot of people hate on it because of the fees. You're going to have a lot of people just bash it, but once again, it's the advice of somebody that had a bad experience, or they're not making the profits, they're not doing something to be profitable on eBay, because you've seen all those influencers, $1,000, $10,000, $15,000, six figures, and they all started from the same place we are at, is at the beginning. And like I'm about to explain is why I chose eBay over Facebook Market, over Instagram, over What's Not, over Mordecai, over Posh, because they're all pretty much all the similar. And the reason why I chose eBay over everything else is because it's a utility knife or a multi-purpose tool, because there's so many things within eBay that you don't get with every other service out there. And the first thing I'm going to be a part of is not only is that you can incorporate your business in this. If you're a small business owner and you have your EIN number, you have all your documents, you can upload that into your profile and transition your personal eBay account into and create your business account. And when you do that, now you're able to use a reseller's license depending on your state, and you can purchase product or cards tax free. So there's another tool and reason why I picked eBay over all these other apps and other stores fronts. But at the same time, you got to be disciplined. If you're going to do that, treat it as a part-time job and make sure you're clocking in and making sure you're putting your effort in, because eventually you're going to get out of eBay what you put into it. And that means you got to at least post every day. People tell you that, and that's one bit of advice that I do take into account is that I at least post one card, and even if it's just one card, is that I'm still posting something on my account, because that's a new card that somebody may want. And because I had honestly tried everything else and nothing was working. But once I refined my approach and really gave myself the leeway to really understand and use eBay to the full capabilities, that's when things started to make a change. So I picked up one category, which was NFL cards, cards that I actually cared about, collectibles I actually cared about, and I packed them in one platform, and I really learned how to use eBay and started becoming profitable. That goes into my next point is why eBay for sport cards, and which sports cards should we use? That makes a big difference. In my other videos that I made about whatnot and grading, ultimately you heard me reselling, fees, all that. And eBay is one of those tools in your toolbox that you're going to use to sell. So knowing which cards to sell on eBay really does make a difference on the viewership, the clicks you get, all that. It really does matter. So let's get back, and nobody's going to search for cards that don't matter. And that means base cards. Nobody just stumbles into a base card that, oh, I have to have this dollar card. And eventually you do have impulsive buyers that buy bulk, and you might get lucky, but most of the time they're not buying bulk in singles. They're buying bulk in $200, $300, $400, $500 boxes, with $400 or $500 cards or thousands of cards all at once. So your one single card isn't going to matter. So base cards are definitely something you do not want to waste your time in. Do not want to waste your time selling. Even though you're going to see hundreds of videos saying where they make their money in, how they do that, but it's a niche community and it's not going to make you profitable. And I tried it, and this is just my experience. I tried to sell the bulk, it just doesn't work for me because I just don't have the time to go in there and list the cards or go through the cards. It just, to me, it isn't fun. To me, I'd rather wait, save my bulk cards, take them to a convention, sell them for $10. 15 for $10, 20 for $10, or hey, I just got a new idea that I was given. Heck, I just put like a simple envelope and sell it. Hey, we'll fit how many cards as you want, as long as you're able to seal it. Hey, you could take all the cards, and a quick way to dump a bunch of base cards out and just get rid of them and make some space for some more cards. So, getting back to which cards, base cards, you don't want them. You don't want to sell on eBay. What you do want to sell on eBay is, once again, doing your research. Right now, we're in August. Right now, football's coming up, so you definitely want to be selling your football, college cards, stuff like that, putting them on there, because right now, football's about to pick up, start all over. So right now, that hype is beginning to begin with that. And the second thing will be baseball. Baseball, we're going into the stretch. Season's almost the regular season's coming to an end. Postseason about to start. So those are the ones you want to look at too. Those are the ones you're looking for. So you got to kind of do a balancing act. Right now, be a perfect time to be on eBay looking for rookies, basketball rookies. Dylan Harper. And that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. Cooper Flag is another one. There's a couple of others. There's about 6 you should be following because their market is about to start booming. But right now is definitely the time where you should already been buying these cards and selling them. But yeah, eBay does have its own little ecosystem, and when people buy, when trends go down, usually right now not many people are selling or buying. Like I say, basketball. But there is a few categories that don't matter. They're always going to sell year round. And it's going to be your Pokemon, One Piece, Star Wars, Marvel, anything that doesn't really have a season. They just put out product. Those are always going to be huge. And it's definitely a market you should definitely look into at one point once you get familiar with eBay. And, so auctions, you have 2 different ways to sell. I once you master this, is knowing how to use the buy it now options, how to use auctions. Those are your 2 categories: buy it now, auctions. Normally, in my rule of thumb, if the card is at the most more than $20 or under $20, I usually just start it off as a 99-cent auction, and whatever it goes for. Sometimes I get 15, sometimes I get 16, which is fine with me because I'm still getting 80% of comps from that. but it is also understanding the market and where those cards valued at. If the card's over $75, definitely not selling it in the auction, definitely doing a buy it now, and then negotiating offers and stuff like that after that fact. So learning the difference in which cards to auction and what works best for you, that's also going to make a big difference in your profit and how to marginalize and make more money. But it also comes down to the type of cards. Like I said, short print, low numbered, bookends, refractors, X refractors, all those, and the players. Players have a big demand, so definitely you're not going to get a card. For instance, let's use right now, if you pull in a George Pickens card out there and you put it up there for $25, you might not even get $25. I'm a big Cowboys fan, but there's not a big market for George Pickens. But bet you anything, if I put a Shador 1 of 25 card that I have and I put it out there for $100, somebody's going to buy that card for $100. It's just the name, the type of cards, all the market. Is there a demand for it? It really does matter. And also learning how to use your eBay tools. And pretty much that leads me to my next point. Using eBay as your research tool. A lot of times, everybody's wondering, what is my card worth? People are posting their cards on eBay. Posting their cards on Facebook, Instagram. Hey, what is this card worth? But did you know that eBay has an app that you can download, and when you download and register for that app, the very bottom there is a card scanner option where you can scan or take a picture of your card, and it will then show you all the sold listings of that card. And that is the easiest and quickest way to comp a card while you're out. Go to a card shop. You see that they have a $100 card. Most of the time, I go to one here, and most of the time, they're about 85% comps. It's why I trust them, and they're willing to work with me. And that's the kind of card shops you want to invest in, spend time in, and support, because ultimately, those are the ones that make the biggest impact in our communities and in our hobby. So definitely a good place to start. And every listing forces me to get better. So every time you list a card and you reference it, and that card is sold for so many different dates, and understanding how to read those sold comps, so you actually know what is something is valued before you put it up to sell, makes you somebody that people are going to trust, because now you're marketing your card based on actual real sales, not by an imaginary number that you feel it is worth. And that is the worst thing you can do, is sell on emotion. Just because you think that card is worth $500 doesn't mean that the market feels that that card is $500. And like I mentioned, I had to learn that the hard way. I had a old Terry Bradshaw refractor, early 90s, but I didn't realize that it was a reprint. And it even says on the back of the card. I thought that card, because I went in there and Googled it, or even used Gemini, hey, how much is this card worth? It said it was worth $800. I was trying to sell it for $800, not knowing that the card was a reprint, and it was pretty much worth garbage. It was probably worth like $4 or $5 to somebody. And those are the things why knowing how to comp, knowing how to research your cards make a big difference, and using eBay as a research tool, because the better you get at researching and looking for those cards, the more validity you have as a small business owner or a first-time card seller, is knowing how to use eBay as a tool, because then you can actually, put your foot down on your sales and not get lowballed. Bad example, or good example, not bad example. Good example is, and I always like using personal experiences. When I first started in February, I had already been out of the market, been out of the collecting business for about 10 years. I was in the Marines for 8, got out, took some time, but eventually I went back and bought my own binders, bought stuff here and there, but I really didn't get back into it full swing until this February. So I had bought a hobby box, 600 bucks. Why not? Bought a hobby box, pulled a Ben Rothenberger prismatic. Didn't know that how valuable that card is. Didn't even realize that he was up for a Hall of Fame. Um, at that time, I was still kind of not back in the full swing of things, keeping up with the NFL like I was, and I totally botched a sell. I sold that card for $450. That card should have been sold at 800 because the market had set that price at around $800. Most cards were selling around 750, 800, 815, 825, and I sold it for 450, not knowing I just cost everybody else a bunch of money because whoever had that next card, when they go and comp it, they're gonna see, well, this car sold for 450, and the buyer whose potential it's gonna lower and give them a low ball offer. So yes, sales do matter on eBay because essentially you're also helping set the value of that card on the market, and that is something nobody explained to me. No one really sat me down until a buddy of mine that really started giving me the lowdown on eBay really kind of explained to me why it is always best to cross reference and post your cards based off of last sold, because the moment you lowball an offer and you set the low offer, you're eventually affecting that card's value. And did not understand that. And when I have gone back and looked for some of that card, yeah, the market did go down and dip down. Eventually recovered, but it was months later. But I did cause that card value to dip, but didn't know the why. But now I do. So now it's really important to do your research, know what you're selling, know the type of card that you're selling, because eventually certain cards do have high value. Uptown, downtowns, checkered optic, those uh, checkered select cards, those zebras, all those have value, even as base cards. Knowing if there's a variant base card, knowing which chase cards are in the new sets, like in your Resurgence, you got the Electro, all these different cards and all these different products have their high end cards, and which cards are those, and knowing which ones are they and which players on them does matter, and the value does matter. Don't make the mistake that I made. Second of all, is not to be afraid to back out of a eBay offer. You're going to get offers. Good example. I have a redemption card from one of the Dodgers. Put it up there, roughly $2,000 card, but you get people like, I'll give you 800, I'll give you 900. They're giving me low ball offers because they see that I've only sold 56 cards on my eBay store, and they think that I'm new and I don't understand the market, and they're just trying to get one over on me. But don't let people take advantage of you. If you know the value of the card and you comped it, you already got the quotes, you already looked at the sold card, and you know that card is worth at least 2,000, stick to your 2,000. But also understand there's that wiggle room. People are not going to pay. You might get lucky and get full face value, but understand that you might be able to sell that card. For me, I might be able to get 1,800 out of that card, and I'm willing to do that. But don't accept. Know your minimum. Know how low you will go, and stick that. And don't let nobody convince you otherwise. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're here to make your business and yourself money, not to make somebody else's money. That is their responsibility, and that is their job to be able to buy product and resell it and make profit. It isn't your responsibility to fit their budget. And if they don't want to pay it, then they don't want to pay because somebody else will. Eventually, Dodgers are going to make it to the division again. And that card, even if it doesn't sell right now, eventually will sell. It may, and once it gets closer to the playoffs, it's going to sell, and I'm not have to worry about it. But if you're hard pressed for money, that's why you don't buy or sell on emotion. And you definitely don't want to sell anything that is valuable because you're tight on money. It is best to just put them away, walk away, because eventually when you go back, you're going to cost yourself money. But like I said, at the end of the day, I definitely do understand if you have to make those choices, for your family and stuff like that. Do what you need to do. But if you don't have a purpose or a reason to sell it, don't lowball yourself. Don't hurt yourself. And sell something cheaper than what you're willing to let it go, even though you're going to have people that tell you you should. Trust me, I have gotten emails where you don't understand, you're not going to get the value, and they're going to talk to you and they're going to try and tell you you're wrong for selling it at this price. But at the end of the day, most of these have their own businesses. Most of them have their own established workers, and they're just trying to get one over on you. Stand firm, because somebody eventually will buy that card for what you're wanting. You just got to be patient. And I'll be forward with you, because it's part of that keeps me going. And a card doesn't sell, or I overpay for something, isn't it just flipping for me? It's about leaving a legacy. As I'm a veteran, we're always talking about, I'm from the Marines. Band of Brothers, we have a history. We have, and we carry that with us no matter what. And that's what I want my channel to be about, is selling and helping the next generation of sellers. So as I'm learning, I'm leaving my experience out there in the hopes that it helps the next beginner learn how to sell those cards. So if you find this channel and you like what you heard, please like and share, spread the word, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.